10 Scandalous and Shocking Facts About Donald Reagan. Donald Reagan, Secretary of the Treasury and later White House Chief of Staff under Ronald Reagan, was known not only for his influence in shaping U.S. economic policy but also for his tumultuous presence in the political sphere. His tenure was marked by sharp clashes, controversial decisions, and personal feuds. Here are 10 scandalous, shocking, and interesting facts about this enigmatic figure. Fact number 1. A childhood of privilege and academic success. Donald Thomas Reagan was born on December 21, 1918, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, into an Irish-American family. His father, William Reagan, worked as a local patrolman, and his mother, Kathleen Reagan, emphasized the importance of education. Though from modest means, the family prioritized learning, sending Donald to Cambridge Latin School, where he excelled in debate, mathematics, and track and field. His competitive spirit and leadership skills emerged early, traits that would define his career. Reagan earned a scholarship to Harvard University, where he studied economics and lived in Winthrop House, forming connections with future leaders. Known for his sharp intellect and involvement in student governance, he graduated cum laude in 1940, just before the U.S. entered World War II. At Harvard, Reagan met George Buchanan, the daughter of a wealthy Virginia family, whom he married. Together, they had 4 children: William, Donald Jr., Julie, and Josephine. Though his family life appeared stable, Reagan's relentless ambition often caused tension at home. And once remarked that Donald was always chasing the next challenge, rarely pausing for family moments. His single-minded drive, forged in his youth, would propel him into the highest ranks of finance and politics. Number 2. A controversial rise to power on Wall Street. After serving in the U.S. Marines during World War II, where he rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel, Reagan joined Merrill Lynch in 1946. He was instrumental in transforming the brokerage from a small player into a financial powerhouse, spearheading its 1971 public offering, which was met with both applause and criticism. Reagan's aggressive, profit-focused strategies earned him admiration for expanding Merrill Lynch's reach, but also criticism for his unapologetic opposition to regulation. "The world doesn't owe you a living," he bluntly declared during the financial boom of the 1970s. His tenure as CEO, 1971 to 1980, saw the firm grow exponentially, but some accused him of embodying Wall Street greed, with critics saying he fostered a culture of unchecked risk. His ruthless tactics cemented his reputation as both a visionary and a symbol of corporate excess. Number 3. Economic shock therapy as Treasury Secretary. Appointed Secretary of the Treasury by President Ronald Reagan in 1981, Reagan became one of the key architects of Reaganomics. His economic policies focused on slashing taxes for the wealthy and corporations, arguing that this would trigger investment and economic growth. However, the measures proved divisive. While supporters credited them with stimulating the economy after the 1981 recession, critics lambasted Reagan for exacerbating income inequality. Under his watch, the financial sector saw widespread deregulation, which some analysts argue laid the groundwork for future financial crises. Reagan dismissed concerns about growing inequality, insisting that market forces would correct themselves. "There will always be winners and losers," he once remarked, a sentiment that underscored his belief in survival of the fittest capitalism. Number 4. Clash with Nancy Reagan, the infamous power struggle. Reagan's downfall in the White House was marked by an infamous feud with Nancy Reagan, the First Lady. He resented her growing influence over the president, viewing it as interference. Nancy, who closely guarded her husband's image and decisions, saw Reagan as arrogant and controlling. Their power struggle culminated in a now legendary incident where Reagan hung up the phone on Nancy, an unforgivable act in the inner circles of Washington. Biographer Kitty Kelley described the clash: "He underestimated her. It was a fatal mistake." Nancy orchestrated his removal, leveraging her influence to ensure Reagan's exit in 1987. This episode became a public example of the First Lady's sway over the administration, with Reagan humiliated by the speed and spectacle of his ousting. Number 5. The Iran-Contra affair and Reagan's role. Although not directly implicated in the Iran-Contra scandal, Reagan's tenure as Chief of Staff, 1985 to 1987, was marred by the fallout from the illegal arms for hostages scheme. Critics accused him of negligence for failing to monitor national security affairs closely. His focus on centralizing power within the White House led some to believe that he allowed covert operations to flourish without oversight. While Reagan denied any knowledge of the affair, congressional hearings painted a picture of a chaotic administration with key figures operating independently. Reagan's hands-off management style left many wondering if tighter control could have prevented the scandal from escalating. Number 6. Public dismissal, a departure marred by humiliation. Reagan's removal in 1987 was orchestrated by Nancy Reagan with surgical precision. Political insiders leaked news of his firing to the media before Reagan could formally submit his resignation. The spectacle was seen as a power play by Nancy, who had grown frustrated with Reagan's refusal to yield to her influence. The dismissal was widely viewed as a testament to Reagan's political vulnerability despite his high office. Journalists noted that few chief executives had fallen from grace as dramatically. The Washington Post summarized it bluntly: he entered Washington as Wall Street's brightest star and left as a pariah, undone by arrogance. Number 7. Memoir controversy, Air Force One bombshell. In 1988, Reagan released his memoir, For the Record, which sent shockwaves through Washington. The most explosive revelation concerned Nancy Reagan's reliance on astrologer Joan Quigley to schedule key events and meetings for the president. Reagan claimed it was widely known that Mrs. Reagan consulted her astrologer before every major event. The disclosure caused public outrage and embarrassment for the Reagans. The White House initially denied the claims but later admitted that Nancy had indeed consulted Quigley. Reagan's tell-all book further alienated him from the Republican establishment, with critics accusing him of betraying the Reagans for personal profit. Number 8. Feuds with Reagan's inner circle. Reagan's tenure as Chief of Staff was marked by tension with other high-ranking officials, most notably Secretary of State George Shultz. Shultz accused Reagan of being the most dangerous man in the administration for his attempts to centralize authority and control decision-making. The power struggles within Reagan's team became well known, with insiders describing the atmosphere as toxic. Reagan's unwillingness to compromise alienated many colleagues, including Donald T. Reagan Jr., his own son, who later suggested that his father's stubbornness contributed to his downfall. Number 9. Reagan's struggles in later life. After leaving public office, Reagan struggled to regain his former influence. He remained active in corporate boards and as a financial consultant, but his once formidable reputation was tarnished by the scandals and controversies of his political career. His later years were marked by declining health, with reports indicating he suffered from Alzheimer's disease in the final stages of his life. Reagan withdrew from public life, retreating to Virginia, where he spent his last years quietly with his wife, Anne. His ambition, which had driven him to the pinnacle of power, seemed distant as he faced his twilight years in obscurity. Number 10. Death and legacy, a polarizing figure to the end. Donald Reagan passed away on June 10, 2003, at the age of 84. His death elicited mixed reactions, reflecting his divisive legacy. Some praised him as a brilliant financial strategist who reshaped economic policy during a pivotal period, while others condemned him as the epitome of arrogance and excess. His impact on both Wall Street and Washington remains controversial. Reagan's rise and fall serve as a cautionary tale about the volatility of ambition and the delicate balance of power in politics. As Time magazine noted in his obituary, Donald Reagan will be remembered not just for what he achieved, but for how quickly it unraveled.